Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome you all on the behalf of Oxford University Pakistan Society. And our first speaker for this evening is Professor Iftikhar Malik, who's a big name in academia, and he's a researcher and professor of history at Bath Spa University. He's also a member of Wolfson College at Oxford University. He has written many research journals and 16 books. And he's a fellow of Royal Historical Society. He is privileged to be the only Pakistani who was awarded with an honorary master's degree by the Oxford University. I would like to invite him on the stage and present his speech.
Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum. I hope you can hear me. First of all, my thanks and my congratulations to PAKSOC for convening this 4th mega event, and my appreciation for younger Pakistanis who have come from all over the United Kingdom to this very interactive, informal, and instructive exchange. In our morning session, we covered all kinds of areas: internal security, economy, science, education, social issues, and we talked about problems that Pakistan is confronted with. Now, I shouldn't be talking about problems, I should be talking about the prospects. And I think this is what you want to hear this afternoon. And a teacher and a student within me is in competition. Both of them are in contest. I don't know who is going to win. I believe you can't be a good teacher without being a good student. So my career, spread over 35 plus years of teaching, will be incomplete if I deny my role as a student. I have to be a good student to become a good teacher. But you don't want to hear another boring lecture from an old, senior, veteran academic. So I thought I shouldn't be patronizing. I should try to inspire you. You're already very inspired, and you have inspired me and people like me in this hall. It reminds me of my recent visit to Konya, which is, as you know, the 3rd largest city in Turkey, and which is the center of Sufi Islam, and which has the largest Turkish university, Seljuk University, because it has got 100,000 students. And it's the city of Maulana Rum. And when I was thinking about this kind of interesting interface between being a teacher and a student, I thought of a relationship between Maulana Rumi and Shah Shams Tabriz. Maulana Rumi was, I don't know how many people in this hall would know that Maulana Rumi was an Afghan. He was born in Balkh. Exactly how many? 1207 AD, 30th of September. And he died in 1273, November 1273. So that was 13th century. I think he happens to be undoubtedly the most well-known Afghan in the history of that country. And his collections, there are 2 collections, and they were written in Farsi, Persian, which was the lingua franca of the Muslim world for centuries. As you know, until 20th century, early 20th century, people like Allama Muhammad Iqbal were writing most of his poetry in Farsi. So he wrote in eloquent Farsi. And why this family moved from Balkh, northern Afghanistan? Because the Mongols had invaded Central Asia, India, Afghanistan, and like many other families, they became refugees. They went to Shiraz, they went to Isfahan, they went to Mecca, they went to Damascus, they went to Aleppo. Aleppo is a historic place, sadly now in ruins in Syria. And they ended up in Konya. Konya was ruled by Seljuks, I know some of you who are students of history would know about Seljuks. These were the guys who were fighting on two fronts. They were Turkic people. One, on the one side, the Crusaders. On the other side, the Mongols. Konya had been the capital of ancient Greek Empire in Anatolia. And then it became the capital of the Seljuks. And they were inviting these scholars, poets, scientists, Sufis to Konya. And they established those madrasas, those schools, those colleges. That is what we call the golden period of Islamic history. So when I was in Konya for 2 weeks, I was thinking a lot about Afghanistan, about Pakistan, next door Syria, Iraq, and I was thinking about Rumi, because Allama Iqbal called Maulana Rum as his ustad, as his murshid. And he said in one of his poems, he says, Masnavi-e Maulavi-e Manavi, Hast Quran dar zubane Pahlavi. That Maulvi Rumi's or Maulana Rum's Masnavi is like a Persian Quran. It is so illustrious, it is so powerful, it is so eloquent. And if you happen to read Masnavi, whether you read in Farsi or you read in Urdu or you read in Pashto or you read in English, you are definitely touched. Rumi talks about everything on earth. But Rumi himself was from a very aristocratic background. His father was very close to the king, Seljuk king. And those Seljuk kings, 8 of them, one after the other, are buried in Konya. It's a beautiful place to visit, honest to God. And so after his father's death, Rumi became a teacher. And he was a teacher who had lots of authority, lots of respect. And one day he was on his horse, and his students following him. And there was a Sufi fakir standing in the middle of the road, Shah Shams Tabriz, who had come from Tabriz. He stopped his horse, he stopped his retinue, and he raised 4 or 5 questions. Why are we here? What is the purpose of human existence? Where do we go from here? Why there is so much tragedy and grief in this world? Nobody has the answer. But this changed the life of this teacher, Maulana Rumi. He became a humble, down-to-earth man. And then for months and months, Shams Tabriz and Jalaluddin Rumi were involved in discussion. Rumi's family, Rumi's friends, Rumi's students had objections. And then one day, Shams Tabriz disappeared. And Rumi lost his peace of mind. Shams was his teacher. Shams was his mentor. Shams had brought this major transformation. And you know, Shams in Arabic, in Farsi, Urdu, it means the sun. Think about it. So eventually Rumi's son, Sultan Walid, went to Damascus and he brought Shams back. And then Shams lived another 4 or 5 months in Konya, and then he disappeared. We don't know how did he disappear. Some people think he was killed. He was 60 when he was killed, or he disappeared. We have 4 different maqbaras, turbats, tombs at 4 different places. One in Multan, Shams Tabrizi. One in Konya, one in Tabriz. 4th one, I don't know, maybe in Halab, Aleppo. So this is a relationship between teachers and the taught. And this is what I was just, thinking about before coming here. And I thought this is a wonderful relationship. And this is a wonderful pursuit that most of you, especially the students, are pursuing, wherever you are, whether you're studying in Oxford or in any other university. And I hope many of you will become teachers. When you go to Konya, or you follow this Sufi kind of literature, Anne-Marie Schimmel has done 50 books. She was herself a Sufi, German. She died about 10 years ago. And she is your best source on Maulana Rumi. The tradition is that when you go to Konya, you first go to the grave of Shams Tabriz, the teacher. And it's very humble. I mean, it's a small mosque, and you go in, And one side of the mosque, there is the turbat, there is the grave. And it has got green chadar with Quranic inscriptions on it. And the headstone has got the typical Ottoman turban that you see in all across Turkey, that, kind of turban. So first you go and you do your Fatih or whatever. And we come from South Asia, where Sufi Islam is very visible, whether you look at Dataganj Baksh or Mia Mir or in Karachi, there are lots of stories. Yesterday, Dawn carried an article about Ghazi Badshah, who is buried outside Karachi. People believe that Karachi has been protected from Nilofar because of this holy saint. Anyway, Hindus, Muslims, Christians, everybody goes there, Shia, Sunni. So first you go to Shah Shams' tomb, which is not really. It's very down to earth. And you think about Shams. And then, about 400 yards further down, is the resting place of Maulana Rumi. And there are 65 graves. Who surrounds this man? His relatives, and most of them his students. These were his students who preserved his poetry. One of them was Halab. He's buried, Husamuddin Halab. His son is buried there, who started this Darwish tradition of, whirling dervishes that you watch on TV or YouTube. And these are the people. So he's, even in his resting place, Maulana Jalaluddin Rumi is surrounded by his students. His Masnavi contains 25,000 verses, and his Diwan, it's not called Diwan-e-Rumi, it's called Diwan-e-Shams. So named after the teacher. So this is a beautiful relationship that I was thinking of. And I was also thinking of medieval period. I know we parents in developing countries, including Pakistan, we want you guys to be doctors, engineers, business folks, managers, IT experts. But I'm sure some of you, when you become parents, you will encourage your kids to get into literature, to get into philosophy, into sociology, into history. And you will discover this kind of history, which is so fascinating. People like Saadi. When I was a kid, my grandfather used to tell me the stories about Sheikh Saadi of Shiraz. I visited Shiraz much later in my life, in my 50s. But I knew a kind of Shiraz, which was a city of knowledge, which was a city of poets, which was a city of Hafiz, which was city of Umar Khayyam, and which was most of all city of Sheikh Saadi, because I grew up learning that if there was a teacher of ethics, akhlaq, it was Sheikh Saadi, who through his poems and short stories in Gulistan and Bustan, shared the knowledge about everything, like Maulana Rumi. In our childhood, we used to hear these verses, Saudiya, Shiraziya, Pan Made Gamzatra, Gamzat Agar Akil Shavad Gardan Zanad Ustazra. So this is a beautiful relationship. I could go on and on. Naziri Nishapuri or Umar Khayyam. How Nishapur was like Oxford is today, where you people are present as pilgrims on this holy pursuit of learning, education, self-discovery. And this was the kind of relationship, sacred relationship between Rumi and his teacher, Shams Tabriz. I also remember that this tradition that we have forgotten about and we are trying to reconnect now, and this is what we were discussing yesterday when the Vice Chancellor was giving his talk and in the sessions today, how we have to reconnect with that tradition. And that's where I think, not because I'm an historian, history empowers us because it gives us knowledge, and knowledge is the real power, what people call knowledge capital. That is the real. I went to Fez. Everybody said, oh, go to Marrakesh. I respect Marrakesh and all that. But I went to Fez because one of the oldest universities, perhaps the oldest university in the world, was established by a woman in Fez. Fatima al-Fari established this university in 9th century, where great Jewish scholars like Maimonides, great Muslim intellectual, rational philosopher, founder of rationalism, Ibn Rushd, Averroes from Cordova taught, where Ibn Khaldun, the famous historian, taught. So why I'm saying all this, why I'm taking you back to the medieval period, not that I'm being loyal to my profession as an historian, but simply because this is a kind of heritage that we have forgotten about. But I don't want to do chest beating. I just want to empower you, to inspire you that this reconnection will take us back to that heritage. That is why Iqbal, in the 20th century, hundreds of years after Maulana Rum and Hafiz and Firdausi, talks about that period, and Nishat-e-Saniya. So knowledge, and I think travel, movement for the sake of knowledge, this is one of the most beautiful things that you guys are doing in your life. This is the best time of your life. I keep telling my students in Bath, this is the best time of your life. You make friendships, you discover yourself, you discover the world around yourself, and you're full of energy. Mazzini, Garibaldi, the founders of New Italy, Young Italy, they were called. They were all students. They were people who had their own fears, who had their own hopes, and they created these nations. And they become the heroes of those societies. So don't underrate what you are doing, and if there is bad news, and I know there is bad news most of the time, whether we look at issues related to Islam, Muslims, or we talk about Pakistan. Some of us are becoming more and more apologetic. We are becoming more and more defensive. Some of us are becoming aggressive. Some of us think that it is very existentialist lie. I think we need to confront these issues, and that is where I think reconnecting with our past tradition may be partly helpful to us. And there are good people all around us. And I think people like Muhammad Iqbal and several others in their time faced similar problems. And that's why I always kept thinking why Iqbal would go to Sicily, why Muhammad Iqbal would go to Kartaba. So I think this is a kind of connection that we are trying to build up. So my feeling is that Pakistan, I am very hopeful, because when I look at you people, and many people outside this hall, you are the stakeholders of a peaceful Pakistan, a progressive Pakistan, a Pakistan which is self-confident, Pakistan which builds up bridges with its neighbors, whether it's Afghanistan, Iran, China, or India. Another thing, I think we are very plural, as you could see in this hall. And in my session, I submitted this to our participants, that the best thing we can do is, first of all, we learn about our pluralism. Whether we look at our past, the Aryan past, the Indian Indus Valley civilization past, we look at the Aryan upper Pakistan, where Brahmanism developed before it became Hinduism, and that is where Buddhism flourished, Gandhara civilization, the Greeks came, Christianity came. St. Thomas was a visitor to Taxila, one of the founders of Christianity, and then Islam came, and then Sikhism came. So pluralism is very much in our history, in our grain. So rather than finding it subversive, I think we should accept it, we should celebrate it, we should protect it. I think this is the biggest challenge in the world today. If you ask me, what is the major challenge for the contemporary world? I think to live with pluralism, to accept pluralism, ethnic pluralism, pluralism of gender kind, pluralism of class variety, and pluralism of denominational nature. We belong to different traditions, different ethnicity, but we have still lots of commonalities because we are the descendants of Indus Valley civilization. In our history, there have been invasions, there have been immigrations, there have been displacements, but we have survived. Not only we have survived, we carried on this message of coexistence, civilization. It is Indus Valley where brick was invented. It's Indus Valley where agriculture was introduced. Lots of things happen. And today, again, Indus Valley is turbulent. Lots of violence, lots of pessimism, lots of challenges. But this is where I think We need to empower ourselves. This is where I think we have to protect and celebrate this pluralism. And if we are facing these issues in our individual life or in our national life, it reminds me of Iqbal again, when he said, "Khuda tujhe kisi tufan se aashna kar de." These challenges can depress us, but they can also let us discover our internal potentials. It is a journey in self-discovery. I'm not trying to romanticize everything. I'm not trying to give you a kind of utopian idea of how to confront the issues that we face. I think we need to build bridges, whether these are our friends and brothers and sisters in Fatah, or they are from Balochistan who are angry, or these are different communities in Karachi. I think these are the issues. And I think the best way forward is that we accept those diversities, we build up bridges, we begin a kind of policy of coexistence, and build this house from within. And this is where I think we have a chance, we have an opportunity, and people like you, younger people here who have gathered here, you give me lots of hope. You give hope to one another. Why? It's not a lost case. As long as people like you become the stakeholders, for all kinds of reasons, that country of 180 million has a bright future. Wish you all the best. Thank you for your patience.